Hello, and welcome to Going for Broadway. I'm Eryn Wu, and each week I chat with playwrights, directors, actors, talent agents, and many others who live their lives in, on, and around the stage. I'm sharing their secrets so you, too, can join me on this journey towards Broadway. I'll get you, my pretty! And your little dog, too! Excuse me, hairball.
Welcome to the Going for Broadway podcast with Eryn Wu. Eryn is a young performer who has acted and sung in many plays and has dreams of reaching Broadway. Each day is another step closer to that goal.
Hi guys, welcome to Going for Broadway. Today I have Rachel Izen with us. Now listeners, Rachel has done pretty much a bit of everything. Being from the United Kingdom, she has performed in the West End in a number of productions, including Mrs. Potts and the Wardrobe in Beauty and the Beast, Miss Hannigan and Miss Pugh and Annie, and June in Chicago. She has also done several of UK national tours, including The Pajama Game as Gladys and The Witches of Eastwick as Felicia Gabriel. Miss Rachel is a fantastic singer who Mark Shenton from the stage said she has a big voice that is as strong on belt as it is on velvet. On our side of the pond here in the U.S., Rachel has been in both the Broadway production and the national tour of Mary Poppins and is currently Madame Thénardier and Les Mis on Broadway, which I got the amazing honor to see her in when I went to New York a couple weeks ago. And so not only has she made her marks on Broadway and at the West End and in multiple regional theaters, Rachel has also had a really good film and television career. On film, she was in Evita as Eva's nurse, Endgame as Tom's mother, Sister Helston in Beg, and the snack bar owner in Jack Brown and the Curse of the Crown. On television, she was in the HBO series of The Nick as Nurse Braun, and BBC shows such as Casualty, Holby City, and The Queen's Nose, and much, much more. So Rachel, how long have you been performing, and when did you decide that this was what you wanted to do?
Well, I've been performing professionally since I was 17. I always knew this is what I wanted to do. My parents were both in the business. My mother was an opera singer, gave up when I came along, and my father was a trumpet player, and I was taken to the theatre from before I was 2. I used to be taken to see the Nutcracker Ballet every year, and then I got to see all the wonderful shows in London, and the very first West End show I saw was Cabaret with Judi Dench, now Dame Judi Dench, playing Sally Bowles. So it was kind of inevitable.
All right. And where did you get all of your training? Did you ever study at a university or?
What I did was I went to dancing school and studied ballet and then everything else from the age of, before I was 3. And all I ever wanted to do was dance. And it just so happened that I inherited my mother's voice and discovered I could act. So I went, after I finished school in England, which I left at 16, it's a completely different system to here.
Oh, yeah.
I went to conservatory for a year and decided that I wanted to work. So I left, and within a year I was in a chorus line in the West End. So
wow.
That's been my life.
And so how has your training and going to this conservatory helped you prepare for all your success today?
Well, the training was purely dance, actually. And preparing me for the future, it's very hard to see. I know what you want to hear, and unfortunately you're not going to hear what you want to hear.
Yeah.
But the work that I did was more, I learned more in the place than I did in college.
And just how did you end up here in New York and currently performing in Les Mis on Broadway?
Well, it's every British actor's dream to play Broadway and to come to the States. And a friend of mine got her green card and said, if I can do it, you can do it. So I applied for my green card, and it took 3.5 years. with a decent lawyer and lots of money, and it's a very long process. You have to have lots of letters of recommendation from well-known and respected people.
Mm-hmm.
And then through a friend, I got in touch with the casting director for Mary Poppins and set up an audition here, flew over, auditioned, and 2 months later, I was in LA rehearsing for the tour of Mary Poppins to play the role of Mrs. Brill, and decided to stay.
Great.
It all sounds so easy, doesn't it? It's really not.
Yeah.
So Les Mis, I auditioned originally 30 years ago for the very original production and have been auditioning subsequently on and off for 30 years, never got it, and gave up completely. And the night before I auditioned for Les Miserables, I got a phone call, and they called me in to go the next day, and they hadn't got anybody for Madame Thénardier. They all knew me because it's the same production team as Mary Poppins. And I went in, Cameron McIntosh was there, and he offered me the job in the room.
Wow.
It's all so easy, isn't it?
That
Not
just
really.
Worked out great for you, though.
Oh, it really has. It really, really has.
And you've done a couple of tours in the UK, too. And so, is there any difference in touring there and touring here in the US?
Huge. Huge. The biggest thing is the fact that the UK is so much smaller than America. So the last tour that I did in the UK was The Witches of Eastwick. And we would open on a Tuesday night and close on a Saturday night. And everywhere was easily accessible by car. We would jump in the car straight after the show on Saturday night, and I would be sleeping in my own bed 3 nights of the week. Whereas here, the country's so big, you cannot actually get back to your home base. It's nigh impossible. So that's the biggest change.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you really are a big family touring all together, and you rely on everybody. You can't really have much family life here at all.
Right. So just how do you, maybe duplicate some of life at home to where you are on the road? Or is it just so glamorous, like one grand vacation every day or something?
It's not exactly glamorous, because what you're doing is constantly living out of a suitcase and packing up and then having to get all your stuff together and then moving on to the next place. And you get picked up, in a bus, and you get taken to the airport. There's a lot of sitting around an airport. The great thing is here that you get looked after very well, and in every venue, you're always treated so well on the opening night. There's a big party, and it's very, very sociable, as opposed to when you're in one place, like on Broadway, everybody has their homes to go to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the biggest difference. And my family used to come over and visit me very often, like every 6 weeks. And what a fantastic way to see the country.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Fantastic way. Yeah.
And aside from the differences in touring, what is the differences between performing at the West End and performing on Broadway?
Well, the audiences here really do appreciate you far more. And they're lauded. You come out the stage door, and as you know, there are just hundreds of people waiting for autographs and want to speak to you. It doesn't happen like that over there. And the other thing is the money. It's so much better over here.
Oh. Is it the same, 8 shows a week type thing, or how does that all work?
It is the same 8 shows a week. The difference is here you always do a Sunday show. So you do Tuesday to Sunday. Over there, usually it's Monday to Saturday. So at least you have a whole family day of Sunday together. But here it is different. You're not on the same time scale as people in normal jobs. And in September, our schedule changes from the 8 shows a week, going from Tuesday to Sunday with a Wednesday matinee. We're going to be doing 5 shows at the weekend. So you do Friday, 2 shows Saturday, 2 shows Sunday. So you don't get as much time off.
Right.
To wind down and just see friends and family.
Mm-hmm. That's nice. So you've gone from starring in just one show after another. So aside from what you've already told me, how else do you get all these wonderful opportunities?
Well, I have an agent. I have an agent here, and I have an agent in the UK. And we're much more humble in the UK. We never say that one is starring in a show. And I've done chorus and worked my way up to playing small parts, bigger parts, and then leading roles. And we just say that we are appearing in a show.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's interesting how we refer to it differently. So my agent looks for work for me and then presents me to various casting directors, and that's how I'm able to do television and film. And I've done a couple of things here, but I've done a lot in the UK.
Right. And when you have these shows, maybe back to back, are you having to learn some roles maybe quicker than others?
Absolutely. I mean, especially when it's to do with film and TV, you literally have to learn it immediately. It's hurry up and wait most of the time, but you don't have much time to absorb all the lines. Whereas when you're putting on a show, you have a decent rehearsal time. My rehearsal time for Les Mis was 4 weeks. And unlike most people that are in the show, I'd never done the show before, and I was not I would not say a fan, but I wasn't one for learning the whole show before. I didn't really know it. I knew my part because I'd auditioned for it before.
Right.
And it was in my body. So I knew the notes and I knew the words.
Okay.
But not the moves or interaction with other people on stage. And I'm still learning as we go. I'm still changing things and doing something new. Most nights there's something slightly different.
And you've been involved in working in many regional theaters too.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. How did you get involved in those? Were those maybe stepping stones to get to West End and Broadway, or was that in between productions, or?
In between, because in the UK I did a couple of jobs as a dancer in Europe and then auditioned for the West End, and there I was in the West End. And then I did a couple of regional, a few regional shows after that. And here I did Mary Poppins, and then I went and did Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder out regionally. So it wasn't a natural progression to go through doing lots of regional shows and then the big job. It didn't work like that for me.
Right. And how is working regionally different from working on Broadway or at the West End?
Well, regionally it's a shorter run, and also you don't get to come home, you don't get, you've got another little family, and the productions are not as big, and so the facilities are not as big, but that's about it really. Mm-hmm. Everybody's, the work is as good, sometimes it's a lot better.
Right.
When I've worked regionally, the quality of the work is still as good.
Yeah, I'm sure. So 8 shows a week is a lot. How are you able to just keep yourself healthy and your voice healthy throughout these long runs of shows you do?
I have absolutely no idea. I don't have a regime. I don't do anything differently. I eat sensibly and regularly. I'm pretty busy during the day because I also do real estate. And I thought, I will just keep that nice and quiet and keep my days free. But no, I like to keep busy and keep ticking away. But, some people go off and do class, or they have massages, or they make sure that they don't do anything during the day. I don't have any regime at all. It was very tiring when we first opened, and as long as I could get enough sleep, that's all I needed to keep it going. But I don't particularly think about it. I don't say, right, I can't do this or I can't do that. Sometimes the fridge is empty because I haven't had time to do any shopping. But that's about it.
And you've done lots of television and film as well. So did you get involved in these through your agents, or did you go out and find things?
No, it's all through my agent. And the more you do, the more you get known. And then sometimes I actually get asked for by casting directors who know me.
Okay. And how is working in front of a camera different from working in front of an audience?
Working in front of a camera, you don't get the reaction that you get from an audience. That's the main thing. And you don't usually get to rehearse it. You have to be spot on straight away. I love working in front of the camera in the fact that I love knowing that I have to be at a certain mark and do it exactly the same and make sure that the continuity, I do the same thing at each take. And then it's over. When you're filming, you'll usually start early in the morning and they get you ready and you get made up and you get your hair done and you get into costume and you literally have to just wait until you get called.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to put the energy in straight away from sitting around, from doing nothing. Whereas when you're doing a show, you're already in the energy, in that whole mindset of, right, I've got to go on and do it.
And since you've had a lot of dance training, have you ever had training in film?
Nope.
Okay.
Absolutely not. It's something that I took to very well, and I had no training whatsoever. And just from learning, well, I guess I learned from watching. And I watch a lot of film and TV, and there are also fantastic documentaries that I've watched from famous people and giving advice, workshops, that sort of thing. But I haven't actually had any formal training at all. Some of us have just got it.
Mm-hmm. And when you were younger, did you see yourself only doing things on stage, or did you see film, or film just came along to you?
Film just came along to me. All I ever thought I would ever do was be a dancer in a musical. That's all I ever thought. And everything else just came along. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yes, it is. You're just so involved in so many different fields of acting and doing so many different productions one after another. And so how do you recommend that one just gets trained and prepared for all of this?
How do you do it? Well, things have changed over the years so much, and it is so important to really, really learn your craft and be on top of it and know what you're doing. I mean, when I was younger, I was always in class. I was always going to see productions. And I think it's very useful to be critical. I mean, I learned a hell of a lot of what I know now from seeing people doing it badly, not just well. I think training now, it's hard because there are so many places that one can go to and take so much information. But as long as you stay true to yourself and be yourself, that's the biggest thing. Mm-hmm. It took me years to be confident in my own skin. I mean, I was confident in my own skin when I was very, very young, and then I was too subconscious about everything. But being completely truthful to yourself, that's the biggest thing.
And just how are you able to balance everything out? Has there ever been times where you are performing on Broadway and you get some sort of casting call somewhere else?
Yes. Yes, I do. And I have done. And in fact, in the first month of the show, I was doing a workshop of a new show during the day and doing Les Mis at night. And I was absolutely exhausted. But I got through it. That was 2 weeks solid of double duty. And you just have to find the energy somehow. I didn't do anything else. As I said, the fridge was empty. My house wasn't clean. But I was able to manage. You do. You run on adrenaline most of the time.
Has there ever been a time where you maybe had to take a week off, or is that allowed? No? Okay.
Yeah, one can. But no, I took off one show because I had to do that for the workshop that I did. And people do take time out from the show to go off and do other things. That is easier if you've been in the show for a long time, and Les Mis are very, very generous with letting people off to do other shows and then coming back. We have that happening all the time in the show. And it keeps it fresh, and it keeps people's morale up. So some people in our show have been doing it for 4 years now, you know.
Wow. And is there a limit on maybe how many days that you could get off?
Yes. Legally, supposedly, you're allowed 2 personal days and 2 weeks off for vacation or other things during the year. But all you have to do is ask and then see what happens.
Okay. And so, do you have any other advice that you would like to give to aspiring young actors in helping them reach their goals in acting and potentially being on Broadway and touring?
I would say go for everything. Audition for everything. Really, really learn from your experiences. Don't rely on feedback all the time. People always say, oh, I want to have feedback as to why I didn't get the job. Because more often than not, you will not be given the real reason. Because people don't like to give the real truth. The best thing to say is you didn't get it. The reason was is you didn't get it. Somebody else. But there will always be something there for you. And just keep going. Keep your morale going and keep true. And always be prepared for the next job. Always make sure that you've got your songs up to scratch. Always make sure that if you have to do monologue up to scratch. But what's really important is always make sure that if you get sides, that you get scripts that you have to look through and then go and audition for, make sure you read it through with somebody else. Don't rely on your own intuition. It's not going to work, because as soon as you say something out loud with somebody else, it sounds different.
Really? Okay.
Always. There's a fantastic workshop that I went to for a friend of mine called Audition Psych 101. And Michael Kostroff runs it. And he advises always to find somebody else. Always do that. And it's a great piece of advice.
And do you have any thoughts for the parents of these young actors?
That's a good one, being a parent myself. Be supportive. Allow your child to follow their dream. And I think, well, it's hard to say. I know a lot of parents who are not involved in the business will say, oh, you've got to have something as a backup. You've got to make sure you've got something else up your sleeve. Well, it's more important to put all your energy into the business than anything else. Okay. Find a way of making money somewhere else that is not going to encroach on being prepared for auditions and going off to work.
And is your family here in the U.S. or are they in UK?
Split. My son, who's 20, he lives here with me. My daughter, who is now a casting director, lives in London. My husband is based in London. He's a musician, and he comes and visits whenever he can.
Okay. So you're just everywhere.
And yes, it is. And yes, it is very difficult.
It's complicated, I guess, just balancing out being part of a family and just performing all the time.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. What we used to do is I made a decision not to actually go away from the family to tour when the children were young. And then when anything came up that would take me away, we would sit down as a family and discuss whether it was worth me even auditioning. So that's what we did. And that's what happened when I came over here, and I had their full support.
What's after Les Mis? Do you have anything else planned for you yet?
Yes. Well, there's something that's pending next year, which I'm not allowed to speak about.
Okay.
But it all depends on whether they get a theatre, and it all depends on how long Les Mis lasts and whether I want to leave Les Mis.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much again for all of your time and all of your thoughts.
Eryn, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this episode. Of course, thank you to Rachel, and I'm so thankful to you guys, those of you who are listening and support me and my show. I mean, you're the reason why I'm doing this now. I mean, I love to learn, and I know you guys too, and I'm only a sophomore in high school, almost 16 years old, and I never thought I would be doing this, and I've always loved to help people, but I never imagined it would be in this way. So you are having so much impact on me and the world, and when you give and learn, I mean, it all comes back around to you. So I really hope it does work out for you in every great way possible. So thanks again, and please take a look at iTunes and maybe leave a comment or a rating, or on here on the blog, or contact me. Love you guys.